Welcome to this explainer. We're diving straight into the cinematic and, frankly, tragic history of a beautiful Roman city that was, well, destined to vanish. I'm so glad you're here with us, because today we're going to explore one of the most fascinating and heartbreaking events in human history. We're unpacking exactly what happened to Pompeii. Okay, let's just dive right in. I want you to really put yourself in that mindset for a second. Imagine waking up, the sun's shining, the air is warm, it's filled with the smell of freshly baked bread from the corner bakery, kids are laughing in the streets, merchants are setting up their stalls, and you've got a full schedule of work, socializing, maybe a trip to the local baths planned out. You're a citizen of Rome, just going about a completely normal day. You have absolutely no idea that before the sun sets, your entire world, your home, your neighborhood, your whole city is going to be violently erased from the face of the earth. So what does that morning look like? Well, to understand the tragedy, we first got to understand the paradise. Part 1. A city frozen in time and the crown jewel of Rome. Moving into Part 2. Inside a Roman paradise, the pulse of the empire. So Pompeii was sitting right in this prime spot in the Campania region, right near the gorgeous bay of Naples. This perfect geography, mixed with incredibly rich, fertile soil, made Pompeii an absolute agricultural powerhouse and a bustling hub of trade. Because of this, it grew into one of the richest, most desirable cities in the entire Roman Empire. It was literally the place to be. Think of it as a vacation resort for Rome's ultra-wealthy, but also a thriving metropolis for everyday citizens. In daily life here, it felt almost modern. You had these sprawling, luxurious homes and villas decorated with breathtaking frescoes and mosaics, bustling markets where you could buy exotic spices, fresh fish, fine silks. People worshipped in grand temples, socialized in massive public bathhouses, and took in comedies and tragedies at the open-air theaters. I mean, the city even had a massive amphitheater for gladiator games. And hey, if you didn't feel like cooking, Pompeii was filled with thermopolia. These were essentially ancient Roman fast food restaurants serving up hot meals right on those lively Roman streets. The energy of this place was just absolutely electric. But Pompeii wasn't just wealthy, it was a total marvel of advanced engineering. They had these intricate water systems with massive aqueducts delivering fresh running water right into public fountains, bathhouses, and even, get this, directly into the private homes of the wealthy elites through lead pipes. They also had meticulously paved roads featuring raised stepping stones. This meant pedestrians could cross the street without getting their sandals dirty from the rainwater and, well, waste in the streets below. Plus, the monumental public buildings were constructed with incredible precision and grandeur. This was a civilization at its absolute peak. They had totally mastered their environment. Or, so they thought. Which brings us to Section 3, the shadow of Vesuvius, an looming threat. Let's slow things down for a second here, because behind all that laughter, the wealth, the amazing engineering, a dark reality was literally towering over them. Mount Vesuvius. Now, to the people of Pompeii, this was just a massive, beautiful green mountain. They even planted vineyards right on its slopes. It was just a picturesque backdrop to their perfect lives. But Vesuvius wasn't just a mountain. It was a highly dangerous, incredibly volatile stratovolcano. Over thousands of years, immense geological forces deep within the Earth's crust had pushed tectonic plates together, creating this silent, deadly chamber of magma right beneath their feet. It was towering silently over the Bay of Naples, sleeping, but waking up. The absolutely crucial point here is how starkly these two realities existed side by side. On one hand, you've got this incredible wealth, the comfort, the advanced engineering, and this totally carefree lifestyle of the Pompeian citizens just enjoying their baths and their games. But directly contrasting this paradise is the massive, explosive geological pressure quietly, violently building inside the mountain right next door. It's like the ultimate dramatic irony. These citizens are living in luxury, completely unaware of the apocalyptic time bomb just ticking away. Section 4. Warning signs ignored and nature's alarms. Now here is a fascinating historical truth. Nature actually did not strike without warning. This built into an undeniable crescendo of terror. First off, massive earthquakes shook the region. In fact, a huge quake had severely damaged Pompeii just 17 years prior, and the region was still experiencing frequent shakes. Then, people started noticing strange animal behavior. Birds were taking flight in droves, livestock were incredibly restless. And in the days leading up to the disaster, underground tremors rumbled constantly, literally shaking the very foundations of those beautiful villas. Finally, these unusual, really pungent smells of sulfur started emerging from the earth, and local springs mysteriously dried up as the magma rose and basically boiled the groundwater. The alarms were blaring, loud and clear. So, with the earth literally shaking, the water drying up, and animals fleeing in panic, why on earth did the people of Pompeii ignore these terrifying warnings? It's kind of baffling to us today, right? But the answer is both tragic and profoundly human. They suffered from what we'd now call normalcy bias. Tremors were just a regular part of life in the Campania region. They were used to the ground shaking. Plus, the ancient Romans didn't even have a word for volcano. Vesuvius hadn't erupted in hundreds of years. To them, it was literally just a mountain. They couldn't conceptualize the danger because they had absolutely no historical memory of it. Their immense wealth and advanced engineering just gave them this false sense of invincibility. Moving to Section 5, the eyewitness accounts and history's record. You might be wondering, how do we know all of these incredible, minute details today? Well, it comes down to two of the most pivotal figures in this entire story: Pliny the Elder and his nephew, Pliny the Younger. These are the men who documented the apocalypse. Pliny the Elder was a renowned Roman author, a naturalist, and actually the commander of the Roman fleet stationed just across the Bay of Naples. His nephew, Pliny the Younger, was an incredibly observant young man who survived the ordeal and wrote detailed letters describing exactly what happened. Their eyewitness accounts became one of history's most valuable records, for sure. Without those detailed, vivid letters written by Pliny the Younger to the historian Tacitus, Pompeii might have just ended up as some mysterious archaeological site. Instead, because of these two men, we have a minute-by-minute, terrifyingly accurate account of the eruption. We don't have to guess what the sky looked like or how the people reacted. Pliny wrote it all down for us. It perfectly validates the entire narrative we're exploring today. Section 6. The eruption begins and the breaking point. Now, we've reached the climax of our historical timeline. The tremors have peaked. The sulfur is suffocating the air. The immense pressure of trapped gases and superheated magma inside Mount Vesuvius can no longer be contained by the rock above it. Just one single day. A ticking clock has officially run out. That is all the time it will take to take everything we just explored: the bustling markets, the grand baths, the advanced aqueducts, the wealthy citizens, and erase them entirely from the face of the earth. It happens on an autumn afternoon. The pressure reaches its absolute breaking point. With a deafening sonic boom that completely shatters the afternoon quiet, the top of Mount Vesuvius is obliterated. A massive column of superheated gas, pumice, and molten rock shoots miles into the stratosphere. Pliny the Younger describes it as looking like a giant Mediterranean pine tree spreading out across the sky. The sun is totally blotted out. The beautiful blue sky over Pompeii turns a terrifying bruised purple. And then, just pitch black. And then, the first wave of light, gray ash begins softly falling over the streets of Pompeii, kind of like a sinister snowstorm. Which leaves us with this haunting question to close out the first part of our explainer. As the sky turns pitch black at midday, as the ash rains down heavier and heavier, accumulating on rooftops and choking the streets, what happens to those thousands of citizens trapped inside the city walls? They have nowhere to run, and the mountain has only just begun to unleash its fury. How do they survive the unsurvivable? We'll uncover their harrowing fate in part 2. But until then, I want you to consider the fragility of human empires in the face of nature's wrath.
Welcome back to part 2 of this explainer. We're picking up exactly where we left off, thrusting you right back into the devastating final hours of the ancient Roman world. We've set the stage, we know the people, but now, the mountain wakes up.
The earth shook, the sky turned to black, and a thriving Roman city was about to be erased from the world. I mean, just picture that for a second. Imagine the exact moment a bustling, vibrant civilization is plunged into sudden, daytime darkness. People were just going about their daily business in the markets, completely oblivious to the fact that the world as they knew it was about to violently end in sheer, absolute panic.
Section 1. The Wrath of Vesuvius. The terrifying eruption unfolds.
What we're looking at wasn't just an explosion. It was an absolute cinematic apocalypse raining down on an unsuspecting population, and it escalated with suffocating speed. At 1 p.m., an immense column of ash and volcanic rock shot miles into the stratosphere. It literally blocked out the sun, turning a sunny afternoon into pitch-black night.
Fast forward to 5 p.m., and millions of tons of pumice are raining down. It piled up so incredibly fast that people were trapped inside their own homes, with roofs starting to cave in under the massive weight. And then, around midnight, the nightmare gets worse. Invisible, poisonous gases descend upon the streets, literally choking the life out of the city. So put yourself in their shoes for a second. Citizens face this agonizing, impossible choice. Do you risk the deadly, toxic streets, or do you become entombed in your own home? Thousands frantically tried to run, braving the pitch-black onslaught of volcanic debris with literally just pillows tied to their heads to survive the falling rocks. Meanwhile, others decided to hunker down indoors, hoping to just wait the storm out. But tragically, they were hopelessly sealed inside as the debris piled up heavily against their doors.
Section 2. The deadly pyroclastic surge, the final annihilation of Pompeii and Herculaneum.
Now, as terrible as the ash, the pumice, and the toxic gas were, Pompeii's ultimate doom came from a much more violent, entirely inescapable force of nature. It's called a pyroclastic flow. If you aren't familiar, it's a fast-moving, incredibly destructive avalanche of scorching gas, ash, and volcanic matter that just obliterates everything in its path. We are talking about superheated rock and gas reaching hundreds of degrees Celsius, racing down the side of the mountain at hundreds of miles per hour. It boiled the seas, it shattered buildings, and it instantly ended the lives of anyone still left in its path.
Section 3. Buried and forgotten, the long silence beneath the earth. 1,700 years. Just let that number sink in. Following that terrifying annihilation, the screams stopped, and the entire city vanished completely beneath the volcanic ash, thrusting us into a mysterious historical void. For 17 centuries, this sprawling, once thriving Roman metropolis just lay entombed under millions of tons of hardened earth. The landscape was completely reshaped. Pompeii simply ceased to exist on the map. It became nothing more than a local myth, a ghost story whispered by farmers who would occasionally dig up strange ancient stones in their fields. But, as we know, history always finds a way to resurface. Fast forward to the 18th century, and this incredible mystery was finally cracked, turning a forgotten myth back into a tangible, historical reality. And it happened almost by accident. Well diggers stumbled upon massive stone walls underground. Soon, with absolute awe, the world realized they hadn't just found a few ruins. They had found an entire, fully intact ancient world resting quietly beneath their feet.
Section 4. Unearthing everyday Roman life, a perfectly preserved window into the past. This discovery kicked off painstaking archaeological excavations that transformed a horrific natural disaster into human history's greatest time capsule. Archaeologists didn't just find rubble, they uncovered the intimate, everyday details of ancient Roman life, literally frozen in time. They found towering public buildings and completely intact homes. They uncovered vibrant paintings and mosaics where the colors were still brilliantly popping off the walls. They found everyday Roman tools dropped right where laborers left them. Unbelievably, they even found carbonized loaves of bread still sitting inside a baker's oven. And of course, tragically, they found human skeletons, marking exactly where the citizens took their very last breaths.
Now, how do we know so much about those final moments? Through a brilliant, albeit really haunting, archaeological technique known as the Fiorelli process, historians were actually able to recreate the exact physical forms of the victims. Here's how it worked. Step 1. Excavators discovered empty voids in the hardened ash. These were the exact spots where bodies had originally rested before decomposing over the centuries. Step 2. In a stroke of total genius, archaeologists poured liquid plaster directly into these empty cavities. And finally, step 3, once that plaster hardened, they carefully chipped away the surrounding ash to reveal the chilling casts of the victims. This ingenious method captured their final moments, their expressions of terror, and even the intricate folds of the clothing they were wearing.
Section 5. Will Vesuvius strike again? The modern scientific threat.
So why does all this ancient history actually matter to us today? Well, it matters because the exact same active threat that completely erased Pompeii still looms over the region right now, requiring constant 24/7 modern scientific research and monitoring. Scientists keep a very close eye on Mount Vesuvius to predict if, or rather when, another major eruption could happen. Today, millions of people live in the immediate red zone surrounding the volcano. Vesuvius isn't dead, folks. It's merely sleeping, breathing quietly under the Italian sun.
Ultimately, Pompeii stands as one of our greatest archaeological discoveries. It's a perfectly preserved window into the ancient Roman world that teaches us so much about who we used to be. But it also forces us to ask a terrifying, lingering question. When will the sleeping giant wake again? It is a humbling reminder of the sheer, uncontrollable power of nature. Thank you so much for diving into this explainer with me today, and keep seeking out the stories that shape our world.